Bills Mafia, what's going on? Happy trade day in the NFL, and the Bills did nothing. First and Five podcast. I'm Dave Myers, your host, joined on Tuesdays, as always, by my guy, John Helmkamp. So, initial reaction, John, and we were just talking offline that this isn't going to be a scripted show because I was refreshing my phone until 4:05, 4:08, 4:10, and I was like, well, shit, I got to go do a podcast. So, here we are. John, how are we feeling? What's your thoughts? Initial reaction?
I'm not surprised. I am bummed.
Right.
I was hoping for more. Excuse me while I adjust my camera.
Good.
Obviously was hoping for a move. We've been talking about it. All of Bills Mafia has been talking about it for the better part of a month, it feels like, in terms of what needs to be addressed at the trade deadline. There's certainly some things on this roster that can use improving. Although, granted, this is coming off just beating the Chiefs after losing earlier to the Falcons. So the vibes are certainly different. But there's still things that I think could have been moved.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but do you think that Sunday had anything to do with it? And now, obviously, there's some reports that have come out saying that Brandon Beane was in on this guy. Brandon Beane was in on that guy. Brandon Beane was, shaking the trees here and doing this and all that. And then we see 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐞𝐿 go not to the Bills. We see Jakobi Meyers go not to the Bills. Both those guys were heavily linked to the Bills for the last 10 to 14 days. So let me get your thought process. Do you think that Sunday had something to do with it?
I think it might have played into it a little bit. I think that, standing tall against the Chiefs and really controlling that game for most of it, if not all of it, probably made Brandon Beane feel better about his roster than he had if you had asked him 2 weeks ago. I also think, listen, it's not just all on Brandon Beane. We can't just sit here and be like, damn it, the Bills didn't make a trade. What a flop by Brandon Beane again. Although I guess we can kind of say that. It takes two. I mean, the value that we saw, especially on wide receivers, which obviously is a position that a lot of people had circled and thinking like, hey, we got to go out and get a receiver. This offense needs a receiver. I don't know if I would have paid those prices. I mean, was it a third and a fourth for Shaheed or a fourth and a fifth? I can't remember.
Fourth and a fifth.
Fourth and a fifth. I don't know that I'd
give that already has a bona fide number one and has a really good wide receiving room in the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah,
with Sam Darnold. With Sam Darnold as their quarterback.
Yeah, a great get for them. He fits their scheme better than he fits ours, if I'm being perfectly honest. But JSN's going to take a ton of coverage and all the attention from the defenses. Sam Darnold is the best deep ball thrower in the NFL in the year 2025.
That's insane. Say that again. I didn't hear you correctly.
Sam Darnold is the best deep ball thrower in the NFL in the year 2025.
That's insane.
It's a crazy thing to say, but it's going to be great. Like, that's going to be a great fit for them. I love that for Seattle. They're in the NFC, so I'm not really too worried about it. Would have been great to have him. I thought that he would have been a great fit as well, just to give us that element of speed to stretch the defense and, control the safeties and things like that. But I don't know that I would have gone a fourth and a fifth for a half-year rental of Shaheed who becomes a free agent after the season. Like, I don't know. That feels steep. So if that was the going rate, I mean, some crazy things were happening, like multiple first-round picks flying all over the place. The Jets have 5 firsts over the next 2 years now.
That's insane.
I don't know. Like, I kind of get Brandon Beane being like, I don't know. I'm not going to go to that price. If you could have got him for like just a fourth or just a fifth, I think that Brandon probably would have felt good about that and made the move. But I don't know, man. It just seems like a lot.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so obviously wide receiver was the hot button position for everybody since the spring. And then obviously it became an issue again after the 2 losses, no separation, all this stuff. And it was widely, the Bills were linked to all these wide receivers. So let me ask you this. Is there another position that the Bills should have been looking at, like defensive tackle, maybe defensive end, things like that kind of didn't get as much push out there in the public as the wide receiver did? I didn't see the Bills really linked to hardly any defensive players. Like, there wasn't anything. If it was, it just didn't hit the light of day, I guess. But what's your thoughts there on obviously seen what happened to Michael Hoyt. Like that's just a gut
Horrible.
punch right there. You get a guy who has just become this spark and this engine on your defense, and now he's out. And I guess the Bills are still okay. I mean, they're if you look like statistically at any of like the next gen stuff, like the Bills are getting pressures from their edge defenders. Like they are in the top of the top when we're talking even about Epinesa, Bosa, Rousseau. They're getting pressure. So is there a position, safety maybe,
Safety.
linebacker? Is there a position maybe that you thought that they would have maybe taken a swing on at least to try to see if there was something out there? I didn't really hear anything all day about any defensive players linked to the Bills, any defensive players really at all, other than the two that were traded from the Jets.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything. Safety obviously has been a big hot button conversation over the last couple months, and rightly so. Yeah, would have taken Harrison Phillips back
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. Yeah, it's rough. I feel like there's things that could have been done by Brandon Beane. I feel like there's positions that you would have loved to see in addition. I would have loved to see him just do something, like even if it was a late round pick swap for some veteran on an expiring contract, just something. Like I would have just liked to see something happen instead of just completely standing pat. But a lot of teams did. Basically everyone in the AFC stood pat except the Colts. Like nobody really went out and improved their team.
I put that in the Bills and Buffalo group chat. I said, did anybody now? I'm sure feel different than a lot of people feel about Sauce Gardner. People out there saying that he's the best cornerback in the NFL. I'll argue that. I'll argue that all day. But I put in the group chat, did anybody in the AFC besides the Colts get better today? Now you can say the Colts are 7-2, currently the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they got better. So that's whatever. The Patriots didn't get better. The Chiefs didn't get better. The Broncos didn't get better. The Chargers didn't get better. I don't know if the Jags got better by getting Jacoby Myers, I guess, but they still have Brian Thomas that they're not using. So it was a really good question because obviously the Jets dealt, who they dealt away. And I don't know. You look at Brandon Beane's history of doing something. Like he went out and got Nyheim Hines right before the deadline a couple years ago. And then last year, obviously, he got Amari Cooper. It just feels like if you look at this roster on paper, I feel like there's still some things that they could have addressed. And it might not have been shiny toys that everybody wants and things like that. But I don't know. But looking at the entire landscape, obviously the Cowboys needed to make some moves defensively. If you watched them play football last night, their defense is in trouble. And here's the thing too, the Cowboys didn't get anybody to cover anybody. They didn't trade for anybody to cover anybody. And that's where they have the biggest issues. But I don't know, looking at the landscape of the AFC, I'm not completely upset at Brandon Beane because it didn't seem like anybody was willing to do things to improve the roster. Maybe that's an indictment on how the AFC could be really wide open this year. And maybe he feels like, hey, we just came off of a really emotional win over the Chiefs. The defense has looked good, really, 2 weeks in a row now. Maybe he knows something we don't know with the inner workings of McDermott calling the defense and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, if we're looking down the road, I mean, if we're going to add players to the team, you're looking at TJ Sanders coming back. You're looking at Daquan Jones coming back. Gabe Davis, it's just inevitable till he's called up from the practice squad. I think he just needs practice time. So where do we go from here? That's where I want to go with this. Where do we go from here? I mean, we can all be upset that Beane didn't do anything because I think we'd like the fact that we do historically have an aggressive general manager as far as making trades, and whether it's the draft, off season, during the season, whatever. And we didn't. And it's come to find out that the Bills were one of the teams that called the Jets about Garrett Wilson. There was a report from
I'm sure they got hung up on. They're not sending him in division. Like,
right.
It's just, cool, thanks, bye.
And then Diana Rossini put out a tweet saying that AFC East teams called on Jalen Waddle. You have to assume it's the Bills and the Patriots. And they weren't willing to deal within the division. So what's your thoughts, man? Like, where do we go from here? Because we were we did a show a couple weeks ago, and we were concerned about the offense. And then the Bills did what they did. They scored, almost 70 points in 2 games.
Yeah.
And Josh looked better this past week against a really good Chiefs team. So where do we go from here? Is this what we're going to do? Is 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭, 𝐸 Is this the answer? Is this the script now? What the Bills want to try to just keep pushing all these chips into the table, and this is what we're going to do? Or like, what's your thoughts? And then we jump on the defensive side.
Yeah, let's start on the offense. I tweeted it out right after the game on Sunday. 𝐸 led the team in targets with 8. Dalton Kincaid had 7. Nobody else had more than 2. And James Cook had 27 of the 29 running back carries.
That doesn't scream everybody eats to me.
No, and I think that it's a concerted effort, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking about this for a month. It's like, hey, cool, everybody eats is cute and all that stuff, but like you've got to get your best players the ball. They're not forcing the ball to 𝐾𝐨. Have you noticed that over the last 2 games? There haven't been a single one of those. We're going to throw a back shoulder fade on 3rd and 10.
There was even a time against the Chiefs where 𝐾𝐨 was open for like 5 minutes, and Josh was like, fine. And then he threw it to him like he was like his 4th read. So that's good to see. So
and listen, we can talk. No, you're fine. We can talk about the draft pick, and we can talk about other philosophical things at another time. But just in terms of what we do with the offense on the field this year, sorry, Keon Coleman should not be leading this team in targets. There's no effing way. What has been working over the last 2 weeks is what you should be doing. Get the ball to your 2 best players.
Right.
Dalton Kincaid and 𝐸𝐭 𝐸. Now, the thing that they aren't doing that still pisses me off, where are the James Cook targets? It needs to happen. I don't get it. He didn't. Oh, he had one. He finally caught one.
But my point is about that one reception, they needed a play right then and there. They needed to get a first down to keep the clock running, and James Cook made a play in the passing game. And that's like, I don't understand why, if it's 3rd and 7 and it's the 2nd quarter and you're driving and you're getting to a point where, all right, we're almost in field goal range, or we're to a point where this is going to be points, like throw a swing pass to James Cook or something in the flat or just over the middle. Like, I don't get it, but I digress.
I completely agree. And I want to see more of that as the season goes on, especially, if and when the playoffs come knocking. You have to get the ball to James Cook in space. He's the best player on the team in space with the ball in his hands, like, period, at any position. With him with the ball in space is the guy that I want to have it. And they're not working on that. They're not getting that to him. And that, to me, is still slightly concerning. However, this concerted effort, especially on Sunday against the Chiefs, of it's Dalton Kincaid, it's 𝐸𝐭 𝐸, and it's James Cook running the damn ball. I love to see that. I do, because that is the formula for how you win and you be consistent, and you're not trying to get too cute with it. Yeah, you have other players that factor in, and having a lot of guys that can factor in, that Josh feels good getting the ball to, is fine. And when Palmer comes back, I'm really curious to see what the target share is going to look like, because I do like him. I like what Palmer brings quite a bit. I think that he has very reliable hands. I think that he is one of the best separators on the team. Probably 2nd behind 𝐸𝐭 would be probably how I would rank that.
And I don't mean to cut you off again, but I think a lot of that, I think that thought process right there got lost in a lot of the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 making a move for a wide receiver. We just looked really good offensively and really efficient without Joshua Palmer, and he's coming back. So I think a lot of that got lost in the shuffle of, we need a downfield guy, we need this, we need that. And like I said, there's going to be times when Joshua Palmer's back, and there's going to be times when they're running deep routes with Gabe Davis. Just wait for it to happen. It's inevitable. It's just inevitable. So I didn't mean to steal your thunder on that.
No, you're absolutely right, though. I mean, Gabe Davis does feel inevitable, and when he, catches
I wouldn't be surprised if he
40-yard post
against Miami.
I wouldn't either. When he catches a 40-yard post and it's his one catch of the game, it's going to be hilarious.
I can't wait for him to catch the ball. He caught it. He has the worst. He has the worst. Got it.
I know it's disgusting, but listen, as the team's number 4 and number 5 wide receiver, I'm perfectly fine with Gabe Davis. That is okay 100%. With me. not relying on him as being the number 2 option, but as a depth guy, as a rotational guy that is good at running the deep routes and has a connection with Josh, sure, that's fine. I'm fine with Gabe Davis as the 4th or 5th option. Like I said, he can run that post route and the go pretty well. We don't have a lot of wide receivers that can do that. Although the Elijah Moore deep down the field target was nice. That was fun to see. Contested catch too.
I posted the clip and I said, instead of us bitching and complaining about wide receivers, can we just get more of this? Where has this been for 8 weeks? Like, where has this been the whole season?
Maybe he's finally coming around and learning the offense a little bit.
That so many people said to me, well, maybe that's what they meant by they're holding back, blah, blah, blah. And that's like, come on. No, it was a nice pass from Josh and it was a nice route, but that we need to see more of that. Like, same with Joshua Palmer against the Falcons. It's like, why is it there and then it's not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was so frustrating. I understand Palmer went out against the Falcons, but it was like, there's that big target to Elijah Moore, and that's your only target the whole game. That's it. Go do whatever. Pretend to run routes or block or do something else. We're not going to try to do that again, even though it was super effective and it worked really well. So
I do like, though, the offense the last 2 weeks. I love the push from the offensive line against Kansas City. That was great. They came with their lunch pails and they got to work. And watching, oh my God, my brain just stopped working. Right tackle. Why? For the life of me, I don't. Yeah, thank you. My brain
pushing Chris Jones backwards. 15
Chris
yards.
Jones driving Chris Jones down the field. Just Jones was in a complete backpedal. Was beautiful to see. So the offensive line getting their mojo back a little bit, cutting down on the penalties. Like I loved it. I thought that Brady's play calling was a lot better. I thought that it was a little bit more varied. I saw a little more of the orbit motions and things like that we're accustomed to seeing than we have, during the cold stretches this year. So I like the direction of the offense. I feel pretty optimistic about it. Joe Brady still gives me a little bit of hesitation, but I like the way that it's trending right now. I think we can probably flip over to the defensive side. And I think where I really want to start is Deone Walker on the defensive line. I mean, we've been waiting for a draft pick to really kind of cement himself and hit. Deone Walker is playing like a top tier defensive tackle.
Did you see that play I posted where he just picked up Creed Humphrey and just went, excuse me, and went into the backfield? He just was like, excuse me, all pro Creed Humphrey. You're in my way. I'd like to come by now. It's like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah, so it was nuts.
So you brought up the defense. And by the way, John, don't look at the chat. Just don't look at the chat. Pretend it's not there because it's on fire with a lot of stuff that I don't even want to put on the screen. So you brought up the defense, and let's kind of streamline this into, is this defense good enough even though they lost Michael Hoyt? Now, there obviously was other players that played before Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi got back from their suspensions. We still do have Larry Ogunjobi. So when we have some guys coming back, are you surprised that there wasn't a move considered for, like I started the show with, anything in the defense, whether it's an end to kind of replace Hoyt and what he does? The thing about losing Hoyt that is concerning to me is the last two games.
Shit.
What?
It's not Bills related, but the Arizona Cardinals are naming Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't trade Kyler Murray.
Kyler?
But
an hour after the trade deadline, and you didn't move Kyler, so now Kyler just has
maybe they couldn't move him. Maybe that's why they waited. My thing with Michael Hoyt is that, obviously there's common knowledge of how smart he is. He's went to Brown, and he's like this ridiculously smart guy. And he was guiding the defensive line where to line up, it looked like, a lot of times. Now that's gone. So I'm a little I don't want to say baffled, but I'm a little concerned with, number one, who they have on the practice squad that they can elevate. Number two, if we're waiting on Daquan Jones to come back at 100%, I mean, he came back from an injury last time and looked horrible. He's getting older. He's coming back from an injury again. TJ Sanders looked okay. So they still have the core guys. Obviously, no Ed Oliver for the rest of the year. So are you concerned at all with the defensive line now that Hoyt and Oliver's out and the Bills made no moves to add any kind of depth,
Yeah.
maybe like a fourth defensive end or a third or fourth, however you want to phrase it, defensive tackle.
Yeah, I am, and I would have liked it to be on the interior, if I'm being perfectly honest, unless you're going for a superstar pass rusher, which obviously would be the nuclear option and be phenomenal to see. Um, Listen, I would have been totally good with Brandon Beane getting ultra conservative and trading away 2 first-round picks to go get a star if one was available, but we don't know
Right.
if one was.
Right.
Like the same deal for Quinnen Williams, they might have just straight up said, we're not sending him in the division, so we're sending him to Dallas. Like, we don't know if Beane had those conversations. We don't know if he kicked around with other, premier edges like Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby that are on, teams that are circling the drain. We don't know, but man, I would have liked to see it. I'm fine. Give up those late first round picks. They haven't really been working for you much anyways. Go get aggressive and get a superstar into this roster. I mean, I've been asking for it for better part of 2 years now. But again, it takes two sides. We don't know if he's just not willing or if the other teams don't want to do it, if they don't want to send those players in the AFC because both those guys are AFC pass rushers. I don't know. So other than that, though, yeah, I would have loved to see some depth on the interior. What I will say about the pass rush right now is that it's getting home. Like pass rush has been pretty good, and it's guys stepping up. Solomon's gotten in there a little bit. The play of Joey Bosa against Kansas City was like prime Joey Bosa, other than the one mental gaffe where he thought that there was a screen leaking out behind him, so he turned around.
But if you go back and watch the L22, I think it looked like Mahomes was going to roll to his left. Yeah. And I think that's when Bosa was like, okay, I can't lose the edge. I have to contain. So if he's going to roll here, I'm going to be right in front of him. So maybe I can, close the gap. Because I will say, though, that there's been a couple times this year when Bosa has looked like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're Joey Bosa. Like, you can't be tricked on dumb shit like that. But I digress.
Yeah. That aside, though, he was in the backfield a lot. He was making life very difficult. Greg Rousseau's getting there. A lot of guys are getting pressure on the quarterback, which to me is really encouraging. It just looks like the defense is finally starting to gel a little bit. And honestly, I think Max Harrison might be a big reason for that. The way that they're able to play in unison with his ability on the back end. Max needs to be like in a full-time starting role. Like he needs to be taking over here pretty quick. I know they're going to rotate around a little bit and stuff like that, but man, he looks like he's got it. And watching him turn and run with Xavier Worthy, I was just like, oh, that is beautiful. Like, thank you. We have a guy that can actually keep up, that can run with the speed guys down the field when it's required. He's got a nose for the football. Like he just looks like he's got it. And I still expect, some rookie moments to happen, and there might be the occasional gaffe and missed assignment and stuff like that. But the juice that he brings, the energy, the play style, the athleticism, keep him out there. We need more guys with that ability on the defensive side of the ball.
I will say, too, that I feel like how Cole Bishop has progressed the past few weeks with adding Jordan Poyer next to him, I think might have made Brandon Beane a little hesitant to going out and getting a safety. Yeah. Because why would you mess up that chemistry? And if you look at Poyer's frame, he looks like he's a lot leaner than when he was even in Miami last year. Like he looked like he was a little beefy last year. And you could tell in his step, he had lost a step. But what he lacks for in physicality, he makes up for with his IQ. And I think that's great. So I'm gonna I just want to talk about what's going on in the chat. There's a lot of people in the chat right now that are complaining that Brandon Beane didn't make a move. They're upset. They're frustrated. I get that. But some of the things that are being said in the chat to other fans, we have between X, Facebook, and YouTube, there's 2,700 people watching. So I can understand emotions are high. We talked for weeks and weeks about trying to, add players to this roster, and Brandon Beane didn't do so. But please be respectful of other Bills fans, and please be respectful of my show, and be respectful of John, who's my guest here every Tuesday. If you don't want to watch the stream, don't watch the stream. I'm perfectly fine with you saying you don't want to watch the stream. Go elsewhere. That's fine. But I've seen a few comments about why are you doing a show when they didn't do anything. Me and John are here Tuesday every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. That's what I do. It just happens that this week the trade deadline, and we're going to kind of talk about it how we want to talk about it. So if you want to go watch something else, go watch something else. That's fine. But I know that all of the media outlets are doing podcasts right now, so it's something that we want to talk about. So we're going to talk about it.
Hold on one sec. Hold on 1 sec. Who said Gabe Davis stepping up? I said he might catch one pass. Like, we're talking about him as a depth wide receiver option because he understands the system and provides them with some downfield ability. Like, no one's talking about him being a game-changing wide receiver for the Bills. Like, he's not shifting this offensive identity. No one's saying that. Gabe Davis is what he is. He's like the 4th or 5th wide receiver on the team at this point. He has some chemistry.
There's a comment in here about can Gabe Davis step up? So I think that
that might be it.
Okay. But either way, I'm not saying Gabe Davis is the savior either. I'm just saying that Brandon Beane's track record of familiarity, you have a guy that you don't have to trade for. You really don't have to get him up to speed. He was in Joe Brady's system at the end of 23. He was injured for a little part of it, but he knows Josh. They even asked Gabe in an interview last week when he practiced for the first time. He's like, I don't need to get to know Josh. I already know Josh. Josh knows me. He knows where I'm going to be. I know where he wants to put the ball. So it's, it is what it is. But yeah, trade deadline came and went. The Bills didn't do anything. I mean, I do like knowing that Beane was making phone calls. It's been reported that he called several teams inquiring. And a lot of people are mad because he didn't give up draft picks and capital for some of the why. I wasn't sold on the crop of wide receivers that was actually available. Jacoby Myers, I feel like we already have one of those guys that can run a 4.6. Like Raheed Shaheed, sure, if you want to say he can take the top off of defense, but the Bills don't seem to be operating in that capacity. I don't know. They have 2 speedsters that they don't run routes like that, like we alluded to at the beginning of the show. So defensively, I would have liked for them to add some depth, on the line, but Brandon Beane didn't make a move. I don't know if it was just the asking prices were too high. And, the Bills, yes, they saved a bunch of money by extending Taron Johnson, but it wasn't a lot. It gave the Bills $3.3 million in salary cap, which needs to be used to elevate guys all season for the rest of the season. So I don't see why everybody it's just everybody ran with that whole, Brandon Beane's cooking. He's up to something. Big baller Beane's cooking. And I'm like, okay, some of these guys would have fit in under the cap with what we have. But is it really worth trading future assets for guys that are just going to be redundant in your offense? That was to me was the biggest thing. Like, are you trading away assets to be redundant when you can't figure out how to use Keon Coleman properly? You're not, up until last week, you're not really doing what we've all been saying you should do. Target Shakir and target Kincaid and hand the ball off to James Cook. And that's what the Bills did Sunday, and it worked. That's what the Bills did last week, and it worked. So I don't know. I don't know where else the Bills are just going to magically, Beane's going to find all these, all this money and stuff to pay people. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Any other thoughts about what's going on around the league other than the Dallas Cowboys? Jerry Jones could have just paid Micah Parsons instead of making all these trades and getting first just to trade him back, just to get guys that are equally as good as Micah Parsons. The Jets are seemingly having a firestorm. I'm honestly surprised that the Jets didn't trade Breece Hall to the Chiefs.
I'm stunned that Breece is still
that was talked about for like a month. That was and if you look at Pacheco's in and out of the lineup, I'm not complaining. That's fine with me. We saw what they can do only with Kareem Hunt. So I don't know. You have any more thoughts, man?
Yeah, let's kind of just take a little, a few minutes to just look around, I think, especially in the AFC East in terms of what this means. The Bills are the Bills. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to potentially make a deep run at it. The roster, how it is right now, is how it is right now. And there's not a whole lot that can happen with that at the trade deadline. You might have been able to swing something. You might have been able to add one guy into the room, some depth, something like that. But I think a lot of the frustration really goes back to the offseason instead of what's happening right now with this roster. I think it goes back to Beane's draft history over the last few years, his maybe inability or lack of want to to go make a big trade to get like a splash signing on the defensive side of the ball. Like whatever it is, I think there's just been a lot of weight because Bills know you have Josh Allen in his prime. They know that you have signed guys that you expect to be the core of your team to 4 and 5 year contracts to be like, this is our window and we need to win in it. And it's really hard to balance out patience and long-term, look and cap structure and all of that with this want to win now at all costs. You can't really win now at all costs. Like, I like the idea. I like the philosophy. I'm fine trading those firsts, but you do have to keep an eye on things. You have to keep an eye on what the cap is going to be and your, who's coming up and needing extensions and things like that on the team. It's a very competitive team that the Bills have right now. I would have liked to see Beane do more in the offseason. I've been advocating for like 3 straight years for Beane to trade up in the first round to get an actual difference maker instead of sitting tight. Although Max Harrison right now looking good so far. We'll wait and see. So I think this offseason, we'll see what happens. We'll see how the season ends, where the Bills end up. Do they get to the Super Bowl? Do they not? Do they fall short? We start talking about the draft and offseason moves and free agency and stuff like that again. And then there's going to be all these same conversations about Brandon Beane not doing enough or his desire to build a contending roster or whatever it is. So I think there's just a lot of frustration for Bills fans who know that you have an absolute unicorn in Josh Allen and you don't want to waste it. And I think that that's just what all of this pretty much comes down to right now.
I'm going to put this comment up and it's probably going to set you off, but you want to have at this one. The city and its fans accept mediocrity. That's the problem.
God,
so
no one's accepting mediocrity.
The Bills have won 92 games since Sean McDermott's been head coach. That's, I think, second best in the NFL. You want to talk about they haven't won a Super Bowl? Fine. You can lay your hat on that. I don't accept mediocrity. I accept reality. And I accept the fact that what I saw on Sunday is absolutely can be duplicated. And I feel like the Bills can do that. When you have Sean McDermott calling plays and this defense is as aggressive as they were, that was against an all-world quarterback that looked like he was playing high school football. He was uncomfortable all game. He did not have more than 2 or 3 seconds, any snap to throw the ball. And that was coverage. That was Bills breaking up passes. That was a pass rush. The Bills were aggressive. And I just saw Josh Allen throw for 88% completion percentage. And we just laid out earlier in the show how getting Kincaid and Shakir as your primary targets and then sprinkling in the other guys when needed and handing the ball off to James Cook. It's been successful. It's week 10, man. Like, what did you want Brandon Beane to do? Sell the farm for Chris Olave? Cool. But are the Bills going to use Chris Olave the way that he was used in New Orleans? Probably not. And Brandon Beane knows that in this system. Are the Bills going to go get Brian Thomas Jr. and use him the way that he should be used in Jacksonville? Probably not. And we traded for Amari Cooper last year. If you take away the injury, what kind of impact did he ultimately make on this offense? The Bills just worked through some stuff and were able to just keep trucking along and improve as the season went. So this whole we as Bills fans are from Buffalo, just like mediocrity, is a load of shit, man. Like, honestly, I don't want to get upset at you because maybe you're frustrated in the moment, but in the moment right now, I went into this morning knowing that I run a Buffalo Bills brand on social media that has to have a head on a swivel, refreshing Twitter every 5 minutes, 2 seconds, down to the wire, and knowing that I had to post content and I was eager to see, hopefully the Bills make a move. But at the end of the day, like, if you sit and you think about it, this team is good. And the AFC is as wide open as it's ever been since Josh Allen's been quarterback. We just beat the guy that's typically in his way, and they are now 2 games behind the Bills in the standings. So keep winning games, keep doing what you're doing. And if you don't see a positive from what happened on Sunday as a step in the right direction, then I don't know what to tell you. Stop watching games. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that,
yeah, a couple things on that point. If we accepted mediocrity, we would not have been criticizing this team when they were winning, which we were doing early in the year, because we are constantly looking for things that we know that need to be cleaned up for this team to make a deep run at it. So no, we do not accept mediocrity. I don't think Brandon Beane accepts mediocrity. No. Saying that about the team is asinine. It's just not true. This is a team that can contend. Now, what the Bills are running into is you are playing in an era right now where Josh Allen might be, I don't know who would say he's the Patrick Ewing to Patrick Mahomes being Michael Jordan.
He's Peyton Manning to Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. You have an all-world quarterback, but you also happen to have an all-world quarterback in Kansas City married to the perfect head coach and the perfect defensive coordinator and all of these things. It's really, really unfortunate, but the Bills haven't been able to do something that no one else in the AFC has been able to do either, which is stop the Chiefs from making a deep playoff run and go and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. It's something that seems to happen year in and year out, and unfortunately, they've got to get past that in order for people to be quiet about it. But no one is accepting mediocrity. And this is a team that, by all accounts, we said it before the season started, and I'll say it right now. This is a team that can get there. It's just going to come down to every game, individual efforts, scheme, making small tweaks. And I've seen this team make small tweaks. They have the 2-game losing streak every single year. And we were super pissed off when it was happening because they were playing sloppy and the defense was disjointed and the offense suddenly looked like they couldn't, find a rhythm. And then what we see in the last 2 weeks is them looking more like the team that was early in the season. It looks more in rhythm. It looks more aggressive. It looks more like a team that is playing for a championship. And that's the aspiration of this team this year. It still is, and everything's still right in front of them. That late December game in Foxborough sure is going to be important right now.
Yeah, and if you aren't optimistic after watching the Bills defense against the Chiefs, knowing that it's being run by Sean McDermott, I don't know what to tell you, because I'm extremely optimistic. Even though they lost Hoyt, that's fine. I understand. But if you're not optimistic after watching what the Bills just did to Patrick Mahomes, he was hit more than he was ever hit in one single game in his career. He was pressured more than even in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl. He was pressured more in that game. So I feel good knowing that, the Bills are, we go through this, like you said, last year we were all upset. They lost the 2 games. Beane made a move. I don't think it was super impactful. I know Cooper maybe warranted some coverage sometimes that freed up some other guys to make plays. If you want to go that route, that's fine. But I feel like this year in the AFC, Brandon Beane looked at the landscape and said, we should be able to do it this year. And that nothing's changed from week 1 other than the standings. And if this team gets in the playoffs, however they get in there, if they beat, the Patriots here in a few weeks in December and they win the East, cool. But if they make the playoffs, we saw what Josh Allen can do when you're not the 1 or 2 seed. That year that he went nuclear against the Patriots and the Chiefs, they just got to get in there. And I feel like they will. And to be 6-2 and to be complaining that this team we just enjoy mediocrity. I don't understand where that would ever come from.
Yeah.
Would you like to see your team make acquisitions to try to improve the roster? Yes. But like I said, we don't know what guys were available. We don't know what asking prices were. We saw other teams that are trying to compete do basically the same thing that the Bills would have done, but they were willing to give up assets that the Bills just weren't willing to give up. And if the Seattle Seahawks think that they're going to go all in this year, let them. That's fine. If there's other teams that think that they're going to go all in this year, let them. That's fine. The Bills still have, I feel like on paper, the Bills have a better team than they had last year. And last year was a team where we were like, we don't know what we have. This everyone eats stuff. And they made the AFC Championship game. And I feel like this team is better. I think they have better offensive weapons. I think James Cook's progressed better than he did. I think Dalton Kincaid has progressed better than he was last year. We still have an MVP quarterback. The offensive line is top 3. We saw what the defense can do when Sean McDermott really wants to get after it. So I'm optimistic, man. Would I like to move? Sure. But at the end of the day, we have some guys coming back, from injuries. And I just feel like if it's not broken, I guess we don't have to throw cogs into the whole thing to try to make the wheel work better. I don't know. That's my thought.
Yeah. So elsewhere in the AFC East, the Patriots stood pat as well. They made no moves. The Jets blew it up, burned it to the ground, tore it apart. I feel so bad for Breece Hall because he's stuck there.
He wanted out too. Apparently, there's a lot of reports. As soon as
Yeah.
he found out that Quinnen Williams was traded, he's like, apparently his agent called and said he wants out now, and the Jets were like, sorry. So
Yeah.
have fun, Jets locker room this week.
Yeah, it sure is going to be a fun one. The Jets are tearing it down. They got 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years. They've got a lot of work to do. Obviously, quarterback is going to be a top priority, but the 2026 NFL draft as of right now is not being talked about as being some super strong quarterback class where you have a clear-cut front runner. It's not like a Caleb Williams year or a Trevor Lawrence year where you have a guy that has just been pegged wire to wire as being, the clear-cut number 1 overall pick. That's not this year. So the Jets could be poised to make more moves with all this capital that they have. They can go trade for a quarterback. Man, if only they had known about Kyler Murray earlier.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe they're going to move around in the draft. You don't know what they're going to do, but maybe this next year is more about building the building blocks, getting back to the trenches, making sure that everything is set. And then in 2027, which is looking like a much more talented class at this point, a lot can change. Maybe that's the year that they go out and they try to find their quarterback. So Jets are a dumpster fire. They're going to be a dumpster fire for at least the next 2 years. The Miami Dolphins traded away, who was it? Was it Phillips?
Yeah.
Pass rusher? Yeah, Phillips. They traded away earlier in the week. Other than that, they fielded calls on Waddle apparently, but Waddle's still there.
Bradley Chubb too. Apparently there was a lot of like stuff going on with Chubb. Like I felt like he was going to be dealt too. And then I put a tweet out saying that Josh Allen's going to have 29 seconds to throw the ball on Sunday with no Chubb.
Would have been nice, unfortunately. But yeah, so in the AFC East, all of a sudden it just looks like it's the Bills and the Patriots for the immediate future being the teams that are, poised to really push for it. And we said it before the season started, I expected the Patriots to be better. They are ahead of schedule in terms of what they are doing this year.
I feel like the Patriots are the 2017 Buffalo Bills. Like they're exceeding expectations. Obviously, the Bills went 9-7. I think the Patriots are going to finish probably with 10 or 11 wins. But I feel like new coach, new philosophy, new culture. They're just kind of beating teams, here and there. They're not really like wowing anybody. They should have lost on Sunday. But I feel like they're the team that everybody said, they're going to be okay. And then now here they are. Like, we don't have little brother to push around anymore. Like, they have a legitimate head coach and a legitimate quarterback. So it's going to be interesting.
Drake May is good, folks. Loved him since he took the field at UNC. He was the successor to the Sam Howell era. And as soon as he got on the field, you could tell right away that this kid was very talented. So yeah, that's going to be fun. I think that matchup in Foxborough obviously is going to carry a lot more weight. It could be the deciding factor in the AFC East this year. It's certainly going to be interesting. But like you said, as long as the Bills get into the playoffs, that's really all that matters. Now, everything was set up so beautifully for the Bills to run away with the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And right now they're not that. So it's still a possibility. They still can make that fight. And I think deservedly Bills fans can feel frustrated about kind of squandering that opportunity. But that's still in front of you. You've got to play good football. The rest of the schedule is okay. There's some difficult games on there for sure, but I think it's a schedule that they could finish up with potentially 13 wins. Wouldn't surprise me. And we'll see if that's enough to get the first seed.
I think it's going to, like you said, the last 3 weeks of the season are going to be very stressful, not just for AFC seeding, but the East. And I don't think, if you look at the Patriots schedule, it's a cakewalk for a while. So,
well, they were the 4th seed last year in the division, so they get the 4th seed matchups elsewhere. Like, they get an easy schedule.
Yeah. So, but it's going to be interesting. That's why they play the games. That's why it's a 18-week season. Nothing's decided in week 10. So, I mean, again,
the last week of the season for the Bills is against the Jets, who just tore it down. So, I think there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching happening. In that final week. Other opponents,
the last game,
Buccaneers,
the last game at Highmark /Rich / whatever you want, the Ralph, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, they're bringing out the retro helmets, so Josh might have to play that entire game because we were all complaining that he was going to get it for one snap to continue his streak of consecutive starts, and now he might actually get to wear that helmet and play the entire game. So that something to watch there. But let me ask you this: do you think that Denver Broncos or Los Angeles Chargers or some of these other teams that are on the tops of their conferences, do you think that they're mad that their teams didn't add players today?
Yeah, I'm sure that pretty much everyone in the AFC, all the contenders are feeling exactly the same way that Bills fans are, and it's an unrealistic expectation to be like, oh, they should just go add somebody. Be like, oh, like it's that easy. It's hard to pull off trades. Sometimes it's easier than others. The big sellers were the Jets. They're in the division. They're not gonna move Quinn and Williams to the Bills.
And I think last year I saw something from Schefter put out. I think the most trades that have ever happened at the trade deadline was, I think it was either 2022 or 2023, where it was 10 trades. Last year it was 8. So we're talking 8 trades between 32 teams. And we know the Jets already had made 2 of those. So it's like, it's not like it happens where every team's just wheeling and dealing. And, yes, I understand the history of Brandon Beane. He's been active. Like, I get that. He got Rasul Douglas. He got Amari Cooper. He got Nyheim Hines. I get all that. Even back in 2017 when he got Kelvin Benjamin, I get all that. But, I think we need to take a different approach as just being mad at Brandon Beane all the time if he doesn't make a move at the trade deadline. Like, he doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't have the guts to make a move. He doesn't want to do this. Screw those picks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm one of those guys that sometimes I'm like, man, screw those picks. Like, let's go win now. But maybe this team, he doesn't. I feel like Beane has he's got like a lever in his office of like go all in. And I feel like this year's team is not. This year's team is not the lever didn't get all the way over to go all in. Does that make sense? Because at 4-2, he was probably feeling a certain way. Like, man, not again. We can't get separation. Oh, man, I went on WGR and bitched about wide receivers, and I'm going to have to eat crow and do all this. And now here we are. And then the Bills had the bye. The Bills obviously made adjustments after the bye, scored a shit ton of points on the Panthers, scored 28 points on the Chiefs and won both games. And that the Chiefs game wasn't 28. It didn't feel like it was 28-21. It felt like the Bills were in control of that entire game. I take that back. When the Bills went up after the Chiefs were up 10-7 and the Bills scored and then never lost the lead again, I feel like that game was in hand. But I don't know. Beane obviously is the guy that we want to give him all the credit in the world when he makes all these great, draft picks and all these trades or free agent acquisitions or does all this stuff. But the same guy who's constructed this roster, when he doesn't do anything on the trade deadline day, oh, he's a coward and he stinks and fire Beane and fire McDermott. And it's just crazy. And I'm kind of over all that stuff. Let's just look forward to the Miami Dolphins and hopefully the Bills can obliterate them come Sunday. So
yeah, that'd be nice.
Any other thoughts before we head out, man?
No, it is what it is. Would have been nice to see something happen. It didn't happen. It takes 2 sides to make a trade. Beane was making phone calls. He didn't like the value that was on the table. It seems like it's kind of as simple as that. So this is the team that you got for the rest of the way. And it's going to be a hell of a second half of the season. Patriots have Tampa Bay this weekend, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Huge game. And then we get Tampa Bay next week.
Yeah.
After. So
if the Bills can win and the Patriots lose, I believe that's a half game because they have I guess technically it's still a game because they have the head-to-head, but huge. It would be huge, not just in the East, but in the AFC standings because they would have one more loss than the Bills would. So
correct.
See what happens.
Yeah. So huge second half to go. It's going to be a tight race with the Patriots. Honestly, it's more fun that way. You want it to be a little bit competitive. Although winning the AFC East on like December 2nd or whatever it was last year sure was fun. It's not going to be that way this year. Yeah, it's not going to be that way this year. So let's have a good second half. Let's see this team come out against Miami and just bury them early. that's about it. Go Bills.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't already, thank you for watching. We have almost 3,400 people watching between X, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you haven't already, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We are trying like mad to grow this thing. Hit the like button, drop comments, drop some Go Bills in there, drop score predictions, whatever you want if you're still watching. That way it helps us out in the YouTube algorithm. Watching on Facebook, share, like, comment, same thing on X and on Twitch. I appreciate it. Every Tuesday, John is here with me for the duration of the season. You're stuck with these two guys on Tuesday afternoons. I'm Dave Myers. That's John Helmkamp. This has been First and 5 for Trade Deadline Tuesday. As always, go Bills.